title of the piece was build a fence and then amnesty. You actually enforce the border, you end the illegal immigration. And if you show the American people that the 12 million or so illegal immigrants are the last cohort to come into the U.S. because we will control the border, then I think the inherent generosity of Americans, the fellow feeling and the goodwill will prevail. And an overwhelming majority of Americans will say, if you can assure me that this is the last cohort of illegal immigrants and we control the border, well, yes, let's legalize their status. I would give them amnesty, not including citizenship for the generation that came illegally, but legalize their status enough to live in the shadows. I think it will be a winning position. I argued it on the merits in 2006, not because of the Hispanic vote. But today I think I would get an audience among conservatives as a result of the debacle among the Hispanic vote. We change one policy. We say enforcement and then legalization. And I think we can change the whole dynamic of Republicans and the Latino vote. The young generally are more liberal than the old. You know, it's the old adage, if you're not a socialist when you're 30, you have no heart. And if you're not a conservative when you're 60, you have no head. You know, all these people who right now are in their 20s and they vote Democratic, I can assure you when they have a mortgage and 2 kids and want to keep some of their taxes that Democrats are taking from them and sprinkling around, leaving no trace, I think they'll vote Republican. So I think it's sort of inherent in that constituency. But secondly, I mean, I do think Republicans have to understand they are the conservative party. And that is a winning ideology in a country that is clearly center right by every measure. And I think the problem was that we did not have, I liked Mitt Romney, I think he was a very good man, I think he would have made a great president. But he was not a man who was fluent in conservatism. He spoke it as a second language. He was not the best advocate. He was the best of the field that we had in the primaries, but that was a very weak field. What encourages me, and what I think we have to stick to our principles, is we have a rising generation of articulate, really philosophically fluent conservatives. Paul Ryan, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz coming into the Senate, and the governor, Scott Walker, all across the board, Mitch Daniels, Jeb Bush, who will be there in 2016. We will have, I predict that the field of candidates in 2016 will be as strong as the field of Republican candidates in 1980, which was astonishingly strong. Reagan, Bush Sr., Bob Dole. It was a whole generation of admirable, and I think the brand will be improved and the message will be much stronger. So the idea is not to become a second liberal party. It's to be conservative, but to do it better. And I think that generation is right at hand. This isn't a time for retreat or for despair. Well, clearly, we're going to learn a lot about this and about the internecine warfare within the administration, how it relates to Benghazi. All this will come out. There's some really, I would say, awful irony about this, apart from the real tragedy, because this really is an American hero. He did something that hadn't been done since MacArthur, saving a war that was being lost. But I think what's going to be, that the story will come out. But I would just say, as of tonight, when we know so little, I would just say how sad it is that a great American, a public servant, has had to resign and leave public life in this way. But I think on the story of Benghazi, it will now come out because the mainstream media, which stayed away from this, they didn't want to endanger Obama's reelection. Now that there's sex involved, that it's a sex scandal, it will become a story that they will pursue for the worst reasons, and it will all come out in great detail. It won't only be Fox, it'll be everybody on this, because now it'll be a salacious story that will sell newspapers. That's an unfortunate truth, but I think it's a truth.
This has been a Sunfish production.